you need to know who you're working with. So, I mean,
Yeah.
I think that's kind of common sense, but just to kind of reiterate, like this is a business partnership,
Mhm.
and you need to do your own due diligence and really vet not only just the deal and the numbers and the business plan, but the people you're working with. Because at the end of the day, if you're going to be a limited partner, you're literally trusting someone else with all your money. Not all your money. Hopefully, not all your money. You don't invest all your
You
money.
can't. No, you can't do. We don't do that as well.
Invest some of your money,
Yeah.
and it's obviously there's some risks there, but the benefit as on an LP side is you're not really having any responsibility. So
Hey, everybody. Welcome. Well, that was pretty strong there.
welcome to Real Estate Investing Real
I
Talk.
know. I'm just so excited for today's episode.
You
Episode
didn't
7.
even say your name, Sherwin. Go for
Oh,
it.
sorry. Let me start over. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Real Estate Investing Real Talk show with your hosts, Sherwin G.
And Tyler J. What's up, everyone? Good to see you all.
Yeah,
I
good to see
always
you.
say that. Why do I say good to see you all? Anyways,
I, I,
great to
I,
see you, viewer.
I don't know, but I guess because we're so hyped up and excited about today's episode of how to
Well,
get
Sherwin,
started in the real estate syndication.
we haven't recorded for a few weeks, and so we must have missed each other.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I've been traveling for the past month or so, visiting family out of state in Hawaii and in Vegas and so forth. So I'm just glad to be back in the thick of things. Right? How about you? How you been
I've
doing?
just been sitting at home waiting for Sherwin to return so I could talk to him about real estate.
Yeah, I know. I'm just glad to get back on the saddle and just go forth, I guess. Right? Keep
Yeah.
keep going, keep
Hey.
going. But today's episode is gonna be pretty good. Episode 7. How do I get started in the real estate syndication? But before that, just if you haven't watched episode 6, maybe it's a good time to go do a recap of episode 6 and go rewatch that episode where we actually talk about what is a syndication, you know, what's the benefits of it and how it's structured and so forth.
Yeah. I mean, this, as I think we mentioned, this whole kind of chapter in our series is all about syndications. And
Mm-hmm.
obviously Sherwin and myself are pretty heavily involved in this world of syndicating multifamily deals. So that's a focus on this in this kind of, we'll call it chapter. And yeah, episode 7, here we are. How do I get started in a real estate syndication?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's probably a question that you get asked a lot, Sherwin, being a syndicator. And, I've been asked that a little bit here and there now that I'm becoming more familiar with this whole world. But I guess we'll kind of start with like a step-by-step process, right? I think.
Yeah. I mean, we're gonna go over kind of like how we heard about syndications in the first place. You and I's kind of stories. How do we find and connect with operators and sponsors and so
Yep.
forth? And once we connect with these sponsors, what do you guys discuss? So
Yeah,
looking forward
and
to all
and
that.
then I think we mentioned this last episode, but again, we'll probably use the word operator and sponsor
Mhm.
interchangeably. It's pretty much the same thing.
Yeah.
But
Good
I
point.
think,
Good
I mean,
point.
we might as well hop into it, Sharon. I think step one, and it's going to sound very much like common sense, but the first step is to connect with operators and sponsors, right?
But how do you do that, Tyler?
Well, and then just before we get to the how, it's like just remember, this is part of this whole world of becoming an investor in a larger multifamily deal is you have to meet people. You have to kind of build a pre-existing relationship with people that have experience and knowledge in this space. And a lot of people, myself included, started off in that single family world, but I had no idea how to jump to a 20 unit, a 30 unit, and I didn't really even have the confidence to do it myself. So the key is just to really meet people, build relationships, build those pre-existing relationships with people that have done it before you.
Yeah.
So, I mean, ways to connect. You want to start on ways to connect, Sherwin?
Yeah. I mean, our experience, like you and I, is probably different, a little bit different, and even other people's out there because for me, I'm coming from an operator sponsor kind of standpoint, right? When I first learned about it, I didn't know what a syndication was like everybody else. I sort of just kind of fell into this other type of real estate investment that I didn't know about. My partner, I think I mentioned a couple other shows ago, we wanted to invest in a big multifamily property, so we partner up. when we got this first property, we started told our friends and family about that, and they were interested and like, hey, can we invest with you guys? But since you guys have, me and my partner had an architectural background, you guys have the architectural design background, you guys manage the property, you rehab it, you do all the property management and so forth. But then I want to invest money in it, and we trust your expertise in doing all that stuff. And we're like, oh, that's, yeah. Wait a minute, we can get other people's money, or not other people, but other people invest with us on this deal, but we do all the work on their behalf, and we all kind of share the profits and the proceeds. Like, yeah, that sounds great. And then it's like, man, this has to be called something, and there's a lot of different names. Could be like a joint venture,
Mm-hmm.
which is where everybody's kind of equal, I guess, equally into the deal, whether it's tasks or money or so forth. And then there's something like syndication, where we just talked about in the last episode, where there's a general partners and the LPs, and where the LPs are more passive investors and the general partners are the ones really running the show. So when we first got into this deal, we didn't even know it was a syndication per se.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned more about it through my real estate sources online, like through Bigger Pockets was when I
Mm-hmm.
first kind of learned more about that. And then through that, I kind of started listening to more podcasts. Michael Blanc's a great podcast. Joe Fairless is a great podcast. These are great multifamily syndicators that are out there. Vinny Chopra, all those guys, started listening to their podcasts, following them, and then just educating myself, going to meetups and so forth. But I guess I did more extra effort, I guess, is because, I was going at it like, this was my side hustle, and I was going more at it from a sponsors and operators kind of background, right? Versus like maybe the average Joe may have a different path, right? I don't know how,
Mm-hmm.
your story might be a little bit different from mine, because I think you came truly from like a LP kind of side, right, Tyler?
Yeah, no, and so similar to you, I didn't even know what a syndication was until it was literally 2018. So just a few years ago, I had already, purchased a couple of properties on myself, or by myself, had full equity in those buildings. But I wanted to kind of start thinking bigger, as they say, and I just want to get into those bigger deals. So yeah, I started off learning a lot more about syndications by becoming a limited partner first. But really, the way I kind of connected with, again, those operators went to meetups, used the Bigger Pockets, social media platform website, listened to a lot of podcasts, and just really started connecting with friends and family, letting them know that I was actually in the real estate space. And a couple of connections just came through, really just me saying, hey, by the way, I'm in real estate. If you have any interest or want to talk about it with me, like my friends and family kind of came out of the woodwork, and they're like, yeah, well, I got a friend that does XYZ. I got a cousin that does XYZ. So kind of making myself known as a real estate investor helped as well. But yeah, I think I want to talk through kind of one thing. First of all, Sherwin, the way we met was through a meetup. I think we've been talking about that a couple times through our episodes, but you just showed up at one of my meetups, and here we are talking on a YouTube channel now. So
it's crazy what relationships can do in this business, or in any other business as well.
It's right? Literally just putting yourself out there, and it can be kind of scary at times, but if you want to make it in this business, it's all about relationships. So put yourself out there. But I actually wanted to go into kind of the story of how I met one of my syndicator partners, or I guess one of my partners in my deal that I'm a GP on. So I'm a GP on a deal out in Mesa, Arizona. Pretty large scale deal, about 94 units, which again I could never tackle on my own. But the way I met my two partners out there, Ben and Sam, the primary partners on the ground out there, I was listening to a Bigger Pockets podcast, and Ben was a guest, and really, I was just kind of initially drawn to his strategies and his character. He's very upfront, very forward, liked his personality, and just listening to him on a podcast led me to finding him on Facebook, friending him on Facebook, and messaging him. So all it took was an initial message on Facebook, a Facebook message, which everyone listening right now can do. You can go find someone and message them on Facebook. But that kind of first message led to some banter back and forth. It led to some email exchanges, like over a year or two. And then Ben actually was speaking at one of these real estate conferences up here in the Bay Area that I was able to attend. And so I finally got to kind of meet him in person, shake his hand, and put a face to the name. So, and then from that moment on, he at that point, he knew who I was. Like, he's the guy that that talks to me on, via email every couple
Mm-hmm.
months and
Mm-hmm.
messages me on Facebook every couple months. And
Mm-hmm.
he just shook my hand. His name is Tyler. He also has an online blog and a web presence.
Mm-hmm.
And that led to basically me investing with him and his partners as an LP, first of all.
Mm-hmm.
So now this is the Tyler that talks to him every couple of weeks or every couple of
Mm-hmm.
months on Facebook. And oh, by the way, he's also an LP in a couple of my deals.
Mm-hmm.
And so that kind of led to that's kind of how I worked my way into a GP role, actually.
That's great.
So that's the story. I mean, it took a couple of years of building relationships, so you might as
Yeah.
well start now
Yeah.
if you really want to get into this space.
Yeah.
But really, it was, hey, what did I say? I listened to a guy on a podcast, sent a Facebook message,
Yeah.
followed up with him every couple of months on an email, met him in person, showed him where I could contribute, and then now I'm part of the GP team for this last deal.
No, that's awesome. I mean, part of it is that you and I are kind of familiar with the real estate space to begin with, right? I'm trying to think from the average Joe who's not into real estate, who does finances or in the financial or some other market. They don't invest in real estate. They're not investing in real estate at all. How do they get started? And I think part of the problem is too, not too many people really know syndication is an option to invest in real estate.
Yeah.
So many times I'll network with, I'm in these kind of group networking sessions with other business people, and I tell them what I do, and they're like, "What's a syndication? What is that?
Yep.
Is that like flipping?" Because a lot of times they know what they see on TV and what they hear. They see in
Mhm.
HGTV the flipping shows. Oh, that's one way I can invest. I can be a flipper. I can buy
Yep.
a house and flip a house, blah blah blah, or I can do all this stuff. But there's no shows on syndication. It's not
No.
pretty boring, right?
Well, you know
Right?
what? Maybe
So,
we should start a syndication show, by the way, on
I don't know.
HGTV.
I mean, I know when you and I started talking about, hey, we should do like a YouTube channel or a show of some sort. What should we talk about? And we're like, well, let's talk about our experiences and try to help that person out there who maybe want to get into real estate investing and investing in syndications. And maybe by us telling our stories, they'll be comfortable with that and uh, be ready to make the move. Because I think that's part of one of the stories. I mean, one of the questions I always get, even when I'm like real estate forums or even my friends, well, how do I find a I'm not in the real estate business. Well, what's one way I can find about to meet up with a syndicate? Because I guess part one is knowing what a real estate syndication is and knowing that that's even an option to invest. Because a lot of people don't even know that. And we talked about the benefits in the last episode, how they didn't even know that the barrier to enter that is a lot less than say were you to invest in your own.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have to come up with like maybe 20-25% down payment on your own property or investment property versus here you don't have to come up with as much for a syndication unless you want to. Depends on the deal and so forth. But I think you kind of mentioned it before, is kind of just start with your own network, like any other networking, or start with your friends and family. Let them know, hey, I'm looking to invest in real estate. Do you know anyone that could help me out? Whether that be a broker, whether that be a lender. Someone down the line may have heard about Tyler and I through the grapevine and be like, hey, you should talk to Tyler and Sherwin. They do this thing called syndications. That might be an option if you want it. What's a syndication? And reach out to us, reach out to the sponsor or whatever, and have a conversation. And if it works out, it doesn't work out. If it doesn't, no harm, no foul, right? As my favorite Laker announcer to say, Chuck.
Just comes down to being open-minded, soaking up education and knowledge. I mean, hopefully you're watching this video and understanding a little bit more about the syndication world yourself. But yeah, I wouldn't have found out about syndication had I not really just started continuing to progress my education in this whole real estate space.
Yeah.
Some people are like, oh, is it like a REIT? And there's some similarities,
Yes.
but it's not, or not a REIT, but it's similar in a way. And also a lot of these new platforms like the Fundrises of the world and the Realty Shares and all that's coming out. So I think there's definitely some more education going out there.
Yeah.
But I mean, I kind of stumbled upon this world too, just by networking and education. And so I think that's probably the really the best method to learn more about this world.
Yeah, that's another comment I get a lot is, oh, so is it like a REIT? Like a lot of people are familiar with that. It's almost because, I mean, the investors that we work with are in the finance usually, and they're into stocks and bonds and all that stuff. So a REIT kind of speaks to them, and it's not like a REIT.
Yeah.
There's some difference in some. I don't know if we can go into it now or not, but that's the point of it.
I mean, that could be a whole another episode, Sherwin.
Yeah.
Potentially.
Yeah.
So I was gonna say, Sherman. So, okay, let's say someone's gone through the education process. They know what a syndication is. They've been watching our videos. They've
Mm,
been going to a couple meetups. They listen to Bigger Pockets podcasts. They listen to all those. I mean, you can even just right now search on your Apple Podcast or Spotify, like search for real estate
yeah,
syndications. There's a bunch of them out there.
yeah. Or Google search
Or
syndication.
Google search it.
I'm
Yeah.
sure the top dogs will already pay that money to be on the top search,
Oh, for sure.
right? Or
So,
what I've seen, which is pretty hilarious, is you go on these Bigger Pockets forums or real estate forums or whatever, and you just type, "Hey guys, I'm Tyler. I have an influx of money coming in,
yep.
looking to invest. Can someone help me out?"
Oh my
Trust
gosh, that's the
you'll
best.
you'll be the I've seen these posts.
Yeah,
You'll be the best friend of everybody, every
everyone.
single out there. You, hey, blah blah blah, Messina, and it's just, and that's part of the deal about being an investor, is that you got to kind
Yeah,
of fish these people out and figure out which
yeah,
investment's right for you, and that's where maybe the education you come in, and not even that. I mean, you don't. The beauty about working with a syndicator or sponsor operator is that you're relying on their expertise and knowledge to um, to manage and acquire these properties, these investment properties, so
hmm
that you don't have to do the work. But it's your job as as a passive investor, as a limited partner, to kind of pick and choose who you want to work with. And we can go into like, how do I do that? What do I
yeah.
do after that, right?
But I also want to reiterate that point. That's actually not a bad tactic. You could go into Bigger Pockets and say, "Hey everyone, my name is Tyler.
You're
I
gonna get a
have
lot of
a
comments.
I have $100,000 I just got from XYZ reason, looking to invest this somewhere." You will then, I'm sure garner 20, 30 people commenting on there. But
Yeah,
that's fine because you actually, if you want to get in the space, you're gonna have to bring in those we'll call them like leads, right?
yep,
Life is kind of like sales. So bring in these operator and sponsor leads. Obviously kind of properly do an initial vet, but then hop on the phone with them and just see what they have to offer. And not everyone is good, not everyone's bad on Bigger Pockets, but you got to kind of do your own research. And so that's actually
yeah.
not a bad tactic, actually, Sherwin. I like that.
No, I mean, but then yeah, I know you're gonna be best friends with a lot of people. People are gonna show up there and be like, "Oh, Tyler, so you got some
Well,
money to invest in?"
I mean, we're gonna do a whole episode on how to vet the operator, so stay tuned for that.
Yes, that
That's a
that'd be a good
whole other
episode.
subject.
Yeah, right now this is sort of like the basics of
Yep.
oh, how do I get connected? So, you know, either through friends and family or other realtors or brokers or whatever, or through Bigger Pockets or other podcasts or forums or whatever, say, okay, you find these sponsors now. So what do? These sponsors are, or maybe you made that special post that would get you attracted, attract a bunch of sponsors to you. Okay, what do you do now? What's the next
Yeah,
step?
I mean, I think the way I kind of approach it, and when I'm talking to other fellow investors, is I hate when the vibe is very like transactional, and
Mm,
so I like to kind of I prefer to just have like a frank, open conversation. It's not like I'm trying to sell them on anything, and vice versa.
hmm
It's just like, hey, like, well, I guess from an LP standpoint, you want to learn about the operators or sponsors kind of background. You kind of want to learn about what they do for a living.
hmm
And so it's kind of just learning about the person first of all to kind of get that initial vibe test, we'll call it.
Yep.
But obviously you want to, and by the way, I think this is not just like a 30-minute phone call. Like
Mm,
when you're connecting with the operators and the sponsors, it's not like, hey, let me just, you want to just chat online for 15 minutes and then I'll, see if we want to work together. It's like, I think it really is, it's building a relationship. So
yep.
it might be multiple emails, it might be multiple phone calls, it
Mm,
might be meeting for coffee, once a month for the next, I don't know, few months or so. But
mm,
yeah, I mean, I'll touch on a couple and I'll let you put in your bullet points here too, Sherwin. But it's
mm,
initially understanding the background of the operator, seeing kind of what their experience and background is. Like Sherwin, for example, has a background in architecture. I think that's a
mm,
really cool kind of
mm,
initial just value add part of you being an operator. But understanding, I think, the experience of the operator in that group. How many deals have they done? How many have they exited? Have they had any challenges or failures in the past? I think those are some big kind of real initial questions to ask.
yeah, yeah. No, those are great questions, and it's great that you're coming from the LP standpoint,
Yep.
right? So me coming from the GP side, and you kind of mentioned those points as well. Like, so I find all these sponsors. What do? You mentioned it before. Email, call, or meet up. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there. Set up a time to chat with them if needed. Or maybe you break the ice by just emailing a bunch of short emails back and forth here and there. So eventually, so the way our process works out at Flight, and I've done it, there's a ton of different ways, is that if an investor reaches out to me, exactly what you said, Tyler, like the first initial call isn't really like, hey, it's not a
Let's
sales call.
invest. Let's
Yeah,
do
yeah,
it.
yeah,
Let's
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. I mean, if it's a repeat investor, or if it's deal specific where they just want to talk about the deal, yeah. But initially, if someone just wants to talk about syndications, I'll say, yeah, here, let's schedule a call and let's discuss. And some of the things that we talk about now, coming from a GP side, you mentioned about asking the GP a bunch of questions. So what I like to find out from a GP side, from an investor, is exactly what you mentioned. Like, tell us a little about your background. What's your occupation? What's your profession? What's your business? What's your investing experience? Do you own any real estate now? If so, how many different types of properties? How long have you owned it, and so forth? Do you own any other investments like stocks, 401k, and so forth? And more importantly, what's your investment criteria? And and probably even more important, that, like, why are you interested in investing in real estate? And that's sort of like the major questions that I like to discuss with my investors or anyone interested in investing, sort of like just to get to know them, get a feel of their background. And at the same time, we're building what we have to call is a pre-existing substantive relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to build this kind of relationship with our investors to sort of get an idea of their investment experience. Are they knowledgeable enough to make their own investment um, decisions? And just based off that conversation, answering those questions, hey, what's your investing experience, your background? If I know you're in finance and you have a few properties, okay, you have investing background, but you can have none of that. But I can still see, hear the way you talk, hear you feel, and kind of get your criteria of what you're looking for. And maybe my company, Flight, or a particular project we have offering that we have right now may not be the right offering for you then, but I'm more than happy to open my network of other syndicators, other investor friends that I know that may be best match for you, and so forth. So, I mean, that's what I try to get out of it's just really getting to know that person, because when it comes down the line, and we'll talk more about it later on in the probably deeper episodes, with a relationship with a sponsor or anybody else, you got to know that person. First of all, you got to like that person. You got to trust that person.
Mm-hmm.
Know, like, and trust. Those are the three kind of big important things that you kind of look for when picking a sponsor operator that you want to work with, and so forth, right? So,
I mean, it truly is a partnership, and it's a business partnership. And whenever you're involving, tens of thousands of dollars out of your own pocket from an investing standpoint, like you need to know who you're working with. So, I mean,
yeah.
I think that's kind of common sense, but just to kind of reiterate, like, this is a business partnership,
Mhm.
and you need to do your own due diligence and really vet not only just the deal and the numbers and the business plan, but the people you're working with. Because at the end of the day, if you're going to be a limited partner, you're literally trusting someone else with all your money. Not all your money. Hopefully, not all your money. You don't invest all your
You
money.
can't. No, you can't do. We don't do that as well.
Invest some of your money,
Yeah.
and it's obviously there's some risks there, but the benefit on an LP side is you're not really having any responsibility. So
Yeah, yeah. We've had
yeah,
investors actually were like, "Oh, sure, this is all my savings," and
ugh,
I'll discourage.
that's
I
just a
mean, we
straight
can't do. I'm
no.
like, no,
Yeah,
no, 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 no. You shouldn't invest your entire savings at all.
yeah,
And that's part of the vetting process, where me chatting with them and talking to them and so forth. No, 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 no. That's the thing about investing. All investing is risky.
yeah.
Right? It's just a level of risk that an investor wants to take, and you got to do your part as an investor to kind of filter out and pick and choose.
Hmm. Hmm.
Which is the best investment for me and for that particular time in your life or your family and so forth. Right?
The other thing I want to bring up too at the end here just is kind of the fact that both sides are actually really, like, to your point, vetting each other.
Yeah.
I think depending on your mindset and how you're going into this whole kind of partnership, you might go in thinking, oh, like, I'm trying to, they need me and they need my money, right? You might be going into a conversation like that, but the
Yeah.
reality is, a lot of times